Hello, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and my project today is for Elizabeth Craft Designs. I'm a member of their coloring design team, so this is a cool accordion card I made using the Tea Time stamp set and their fancy label accordion card. So to start off with, I did stamp each of the various, well, not all of them, but most of the tea time images. So I stamped the stacked cups, the cupcake, the individual teacup, and the teapot, all using archival jet black ink, which is waterproof because I was going to use my Inktense pencils and water. Now, I had never stamped these stamps before, so I am stamping them off on a piece of scratch paper first, just to make sure that I get a good stamped image once I stamp it. You'll see that I stamped a little steam piece as well, but I don't wind up using that. And I was pretty sad about that because it's super, super cute. And it comes with a little die, and the die is really cute. But I didn't need it. So if you're going to replicate this, you don't need to stamp that one. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to be coloring this with Inktense pencils and using water to blend or liven up the color. Like once you add water to it, that's when you really see the color come alive, as you will see here in a second. And I decided ahead of time that I wanted to use a color palette of purples, like a dark purple, a light purple, and a mint green. I sort of picked papers for that purpose. So I purposely did colors in my coloring that went with that. So this is Thistle, which is the lighter purple shade that I use, and I wind up coloring all of it pretty much the way you see me do now, where I'm taking my brush and I'm dipping it in water and then taking it to the tip of the pencil to grab some color, and then taking it to the cardstock to color the image in. Oh, and this is 85-pound white soft finish cardstock, by the way. And I pretty much use just one color for each element. There are a few places here and there that I don't, but I'll mention those. Like right now, I'm making chocolate cake, so I had to use dark chocolate, and then I used a little bit of madder brown on top of it to just kind of give it a little bit of a red hint. But to go with my color palette with my paper, I picked 2 shades of purple and a green, and then I have 2 shades of yellow because I wanted to add a little bit of fun, brighter color in there for a spring feel. So this is cadmium yellow, which is my lighter yellow shade. And then I'm going to add a little bit of shading here with golden yellow, which is a slightly darker yellow shade. And I just go along the sort of folds in the cupcake wrapper to add a little bit of shading here and there. And then for my bow, I'm going to wind up using Deep Violet, which is the darker purple shade in my color palette of choice. And then my green will be Hooker's Green. And then because of the cherry on my cupcake, I needed to add a little bit of red. So I wound up using Chili Red as the red color for all the images. And so each little scene that I put together, which one is the stacked cups, one is the cupcake, and then the last one is the teapot with the cup. Each one of those has a red element in it as well. So essentially, long story short, my color palette is a light purple, a dark purple, a green, kind of a minty green, and then yellow. And there are 2 shades of yellow going on with just a tiny, tiny bit of red. And I didn't do any complicated shading or anything. Basically, the only way I shaded things, other than that yellow on the wrapper, was I used the same color, and I used more water and less color from the pencil to make lighter sections, and more color and less water to make darker sections. So it was a very simple coloring. Nothing complicated or blendy going on really at all. And that's how I got the darker purples and lighter purples on this bow. And then I added in the Hooker's Green for the green on the leaves. And here's the Chili Red for the cherry. And you'll see that I just kind of go back and forth a little bit to add shading on that later. And then for my little stacked teacups, I'm using the exact same colors. So this is the Hooker's Green, and then my center cup is going to be the Thistle, and the top cup will be the Cadmium Yellow, and then I will add accents of the other colors to pull the color palette throughout those stacked cups. And so if you struggle with coloring stamped images and having them coordinate, like if you want several images to coordinate on one card and you're having problems with that, a really easy way to get around that is to just use the exact same colors on all of the different images. And that way you automatically have a coordinated palette and it's going to go together, and it's very difficult to mess up. And you can see as I'm coloring, like I'm not using necessarily like the same amount of yellow or the same amount of thistle or the same amount of hooker's green on each one. Like some have more of one color or less of one color. But because I'm using these same colors across all of the different stamped images, they automatically all coordinate. And you'll see in the end, it works out really well and makes a really nice coordinated colored palette all the way across the card, especially when it coordinates with the paper that I used. So that's my tip for picking colors if you struggle at all with coordinating multiple stamped images together and you don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it or doing a lot of shading, etc. And so on here, I'm adding the cadmium yellow to those flowers, and then I'm going to use a little bit of the golden yellow on the bottoms to just darken those in. And you can see I've done the deep violet on the center of that flower. And then I'm going to use the chili red on the bird. And you can see there I add a little more to the cherry to give it a little bit darker shade. And there's the bird, and I'll use a little bit of the golden yellow on the bird as well. And I will do the exact same thing with the teapot. The teapot I'm going to color in the cadmium yellow, the hooker's green, and a little bit of deep violet. And then the teacup winds up being mostly, it's got the red rose, some hooker's green for the leaves, and then thistle with the cadmium yellow for the cup. I did use those two brown shades again for the tea itself, and then a little bit of deep violet for the shading on the saucer. But that's it. So nothing complicated going on at all. And then I die cut them all out using the matching dies for the stamp set. And if you haven't watched any of my other Elizabeth Craft Science videos, I just have to mention again how much I love the matching dies that go with the stamps. Really easy to use. For my greetings, I use the Just a Note clear stamp set, and I am stamping these in VersaFine ink. So it's Just a Note and then Enjoy Your Day were the two greetings. And I did fussy cut them out with a white border all the way around. And then to fill in the letters on Enjoy, I am using the hooker's green on every other letter, and then I will use the cadmium yellow on the N and the O to complete that little guy. And again, coordinating my colors, same pencils, so really easy to coordinate them. Now using the fancy label accordion die, I cut 2 of the large pieces from 100-pound white cardstock and 1 from the mint green soft finish cardstock. And then it comes with those nesting shapes in the middle. So I used the largest one to cut a piece of purple pattern paper, a piece of lavender soft finish cardstock, and a piece of deep purple cardstock. And then I used the Fancy Seasons frame edges, and I used the polka dot on that, and I cut 4 from lavender and 4 from mint green. And I put adhesive sheets on the back of those first before I die cut them to turn them into a sticker. And then I have 2 pieces of pattern paper that I cut like so. So I cut out like the large piece again out of each one, and then I cut out the big flap and then the center section for those because I didn't need them. And you'll see and then they will adhere down like so. And the second piece you'll see in a little bit, but it's a totally different paper, but coordinates. Now here's the main panels, and I'm putting my polka dot border on. So as I mentioned, I put adhesive sheets on the back of this, so that makes it really easy to adhere down, just turns them into a sticker. And basically you float the frame edge in the center. So there's a little bit of a white border on the inside and the outside. And then you just match up the corners because the design completes itself to create the correct alignment on those frame edges. And it was really, really easy to do. And to be cute, I decided to alternate my colors. So I did lavender, mint green, lavender, mint green. And then on the second panel, I turned it 90 degrees. So it went mint green, lavender, mint green, lavender. So they aren't entirely the same. And I knew this was going to be my first panel and my last panel. And then the mint green panel is going in the middle. So here's the second piece of pattern paper. I used the 10 millimeter clear double-sided adhesive tape for this. It's exactly the right size. And you just basically adhere it down. And I had to adjust it just a tiny bit. It can be a little bit tricky, but not too bad at all. And so that is the second pattern paper. I did have to trim it just a tiny bit because I didn't quite get it lined up on the top perfectly, but not a big deal. And so that is how I'm going to adhere them together. That's the order. And you see there are these little tabs on the center pieces as well, and you don't need any of the tabs on that first white piece. So you can cut off the large tab, like the one I'm folding there, as well as those little tabs on the inside too. So to adhere them together, you're going to adhere the long tabs to the panel next to it. And then you need to put a little bit of adhesive on those tiny tabs because that's what's going to adhere your middle section together, the center section. So I put 6mm adhesive all the way around, and then I am going to just line up the two panels and stick them down. And you want to line them up so that it's slightly, so that when I'm gluing down is slightly inside the fold, so nothing's going to interfere with the actual fold of the cardstock. But it's really, really easy to do and super easy. Easy and easy. And so the first fold is going to be a valley fold, so you're going to fold it away from you. And then the second fold is going to be a mountain fold, so it's going to fold towards you. And that is the correct alignment on the outer panels. Now I took those nesting pieces that I cut earlier and I put those in the middle in the order you see. So it's the purple pattern paper, the lavender paper, and then the deep purple paper on the last one. And then I stuck down all of my various stamped images using adhesive tape, and I did put a little bit of foam tape on that just a note to say as well. And so you want to check your folds again and make sure it's all lined up correctly, and that just a note to say panel should flip to the front when you close it. So for that, you're going to need another piece of pattern paper to finish off the card. So here's that first one where you saw me trimming off the inside and the flap. And I'm just going to adhere this down to the outside to complete all of sort of the decoration of the outer frames, if you will. And so now the fun part is to adhere your center sections together. So to do that, you're going to fold your those little flaps on the inner pieces, and you're going to adhere them to the back of the panel next to it. And the folds go in the opposite direction of the outer folds. So the first fold is a mountain fold towards you, and the second fold is a valley fold away from you. So it's opposite the outer edges. And that's your completed card. Now, of course, I couldn't leave well enough alone, so I had to grab my sparkle marker and add a little sparkle to each panel. And then I needed a little glaze pen for my bird's eye, and I put some glossy accents on my cherry as well. I should have thought of that before I adhered the center panels together. It would have made things a lot easier, but of course I didn't decide that until the very end. So if you are going to make something like this, I would say get all your decorating done before you adhere those center panels together. It will make it easier, but it wasn't too hard to add it in the end. So hopefully I've given you a little inspiration today for how to make a fun, interactive, springy card, and especially using that really, really cute tea time stamp set. It's so adorable. Thanks so much for watching. You can find a supply list linked in the video description below or on the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog. You can also find more from me on my blog, blacksheep303.com. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love it if you would subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at blacksheep303. And I love to hear from you, so please leave me a comment. Thanks!